Hello, you are listening to A Woman's Guide, episode 16. Do you overindulge in alcohol? Is it a comfort for stress, difficult emotions, or trauma? Why is it damaging to use alcohol for these purposes? Today's episode is How to Overcome Overindulgence, Part 2. Stay tuned. This is A Woman's Guide to Reclaiming Wholeness After Sexual Abuse. For all of you listening, welcome to the show. I'm Simone, your confidant and guide. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, so before we get into the episode, I just wanted to, and this is something I wouldn't say neglecting consciously, but I've been unconsciously neglecting the need to tell you that I have a website. Well, depending on how you're getting these audio files, or if you're subscribed or not, there is a website that I do link to this podcast. And for those of you who do not know if I have a website, I do have a website. So in case you want to ask me a question or get in touch with me to comment on the show or to ask me any question, it doesn't really matter. I have a website. So it is www.crossroads, as in CROSSROADS, Crossroads, with your confidant, CONFIDANTE.com. You can go there and you can contact me by going to my contact page, or also I have show notes that I just started making. Well, I would say more like a blog version of these episodes, for anyone who wants to read, or anyone that likes to read rather than listen. There are I would say articles pertaining to these episodes. Well, I would say slash show notes that are on my website now, and I started to do them a little bit later. So that's probably the reason why I didn't really tell you much about my website, but my website is available for those of you who want to look or who want to contact me. So that's just a little bit about that. Okay, so on with the topic today. So we're going to talk about overindulgence in alcohol. Yes, important topic. Now, I'm going to be speaking about alcohol a little briefly, just briefly, because it's something that we should know, because we are all looking to develop, well, if you are listening to this podcast or this audio file, that we are all looking, or you are looking to develop, to heal, and to better yourself in different ways, okay? Mentally or emotionally or spiritually, whatever you want to, however you're doing it. You're looking for ways to develop, heal, and better yourself, okay? So this is something that needs to be acknowledged and addressed. And I know that because it's, alcohol, it's common. It's something that we all do, It's not rare. It's not something that is, forbidden or it's wrong. But it's something that needs to be acknowledged and addressed, pertaining to the fact that we want to develop and we want to grow and we want to heal, right? Yeah, so there are things that are behind it that I would like to get into. There are things that are behind it that I'd like to get into, because of this drinking of alcohol. Anyway, so if you don't know what alcohol is, it is a fermented drink that is made from grains or fruits or vegetables, and that causes a certain reaction, a physiological reaction within the body that a lot of people find desirable. It's relaxing, right? For some people, gives people energy sometimes. And I mean, I think it's okay. I think it's okay to drink alcohol now and then. I mean, it's in moderation. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. There's nothing really bad, that you can do. There's nothing really bad that you can do with yourself depending on, actually, no, there are things that you can do that are really bad for your body. But I mean, in terms of alcohol, I don't think it's a problem if it's done in moderation or you do it now and then. Now, when you do it excessively, when you do it frequently, when you're dependent upon it, then that becomes an issue. And this is what I wanted to pinpoint pertaining to what it is that we want to do with ourselves. A lot of the times, alcohol is used as an escape from reality. It's used as an escape from reality, from the issues, from the pain, from the stress of life. A lot of people use alcohol this way, okay? Now, if it's something that's done as a social, it's a social interaction, it's just, you eat, drink, and be merry kind of thing, I mean, that's okay. But when it becomes like an escape from reality, it becomes a way to deal with, or sorry, lack thereof, not deal with your issues and your pain, then, and it becomes a habit, and then that can escalate into a full-blown addiction, which is alcoholism, then, that's something that needs to be treated or addressed, treated and addressed by a professional. Okay? But I'm just saying that because, with me it's the same. I've gone through a lot of phases. And drinking was another phase that I went through too. But it was more benign. It was really not that excessive. It was not that frequent, but I did drink more at a certain period of time. I did drink a little bit more, and it was more of a, anyway, let me just, I get ahead of myself too much, but anyway, let me explain more about that later after I give you some more of this information. If you are drinking to suppress certain things that you've suffered, I just want to give you a little bit of advice for this. It's not going to help. It's not going to help. It's not going to help. It's not going to work. If you are trying to heal and deal and overcome and become better, become stronger, become more powerful, to stand in your strength, to love yourself, you are drinking as a way to suppress certain feelings or to avoid certain issues or feelings, you are thwarting the healing process. You are thwarting the healing process. You're obstructing the healing process. Obstructing it. Okay, that's what it is, and that's the main reason why I decided to speak about alcohol today, because the process of just healing, I mean, talking about in general here. We're not just talking about sexual abuse recovery, just in general. If you are wanting to heal, if you're wanting to grow, if you're wanting to expand, if you're wanting to become whole as a person, if you're wanting to love yourself, the process requires the process of healing, the process of uncovering, the process of growing. Okay? It requires you to feel uncomfortable and painful feelings. You must be willing to feel uncomfortable and painful feelings if you want to heal and you want to overcome. Okay, you must allow yourself to have these upheavals, these emotional, mental upheavals. Okay, you need to allow yourself to do that. When you feel these painful and uncomfortable emotions and feelings, this is how we purge ourselves of it. It's coming up for a reason. It's coming up because we need to purge ourselves. We need to rid ourselves of certain things. That's why it hurts. You need to purge it out. Okay? So, if you are using alcohol to stunt this, or to suppress this, or avoid whatever it is that's coming up inside of you, it needs to come out. And I liken it to, if I can make an analogy for you, because I like analogies. It's like, for example, if you have bad food in your system. Let's say you're food poisoned, okay, on some level. There's an excessive amount of microorganisms, dangerous microorganisms in your body. And your body's natural inclination, safety defense mechanism is to bring it up. It's to purge it out of your system, right? And the function for that is because you want to survive. Your body wants to survive. It wants to be well. These are invaders. These are things that your body does not need and does not like. So that's why it wants to purge it out. Now, let's say for some reason, and of course this is not really true. This is not really true, because if your body needs to purge, it will purge it out, okay? But let's say, for example, if you decide, okay, I don't want to purge this out. I feel very sick. I feel very nauseous, but I want to keep that stuff down there because it's uncomfortable to upheave, and it's uncomfortable, and it feels like crap to get rid of this food, right? It feels like crap to get rid of this food. So let's say you decided to tell your body, I don't want that food to come out of me. I want it to stay down there because I hate vomiting. I don't like the uncomfortable feelings. I don't like nausea or nausea. I don't like that. So I want to keep it down there. But what's going to happen if you're telling your body to keep it down there and it obeys you? Okay? What happens when you say to it, I want you to keep that food down, even though it's bad for me? I want you to keep it down. What's going to happen to your body? Well, your body's going to become overwhelmed, a lot more overwhelmed, and those microorganisms are going to take over your body, and most likely you'll die. You'll get very, 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 very sick, and then you'll die. Your body's doing that for a reason, because it wants to purge and it wants to be well again. Okay? And let's put it this way. Let's put it in another way. Okay, so you don't like the nausea, you don't like the sickness, but then your body purges itself of all the sickness, because that's naturally what happens. You're not going to stop the purging process. If it's that severe, your body is not going to, it's not going to obey your mind or obey whatever it is that you want to keep it down. It's going to purge itself. It's going to, for its own safety and its own survival, it's going to do that. So anyway, what I'm saying is, when you actually do go through the purging and that stuff becomes that stuff is released from your system, how do you feel afterwards? I mean, how do you really feel after you got all that bad stuff out of your system? You feel a lot better, right? You didn't feel so good when you started to get sick, or you knew that there was something inside of your system that needed to come out. You didn't feel so good. You didn't feel so hot. But because it came out and you went through all of that issue, all of that mess, you feel a lot better. So I liken it to that. So what I'm saying about alcohol is, alcohol is really suppressing what it is that needs to come out. And let me tell you something, it's going to come out. At some point, it's going to come out. It will come out. And you're just delaying it, and you're just making it more combustible, and you're making it more upsetting for yourself. When you just continually drink, Anyway, so let me give you a personal example. But like I was saying, I've had a lot of phases, and I've done a lot of different things to cope with my uncomfortable feelings and feelings of depression and shame and inferiority and unworthiness, and feeling like I'm just this speck of dust floating around in the world, and I don't really know why I'm here, and I hate my life, and everything's awful. So I've gone through a lot of different phases. Now I did delve into alcohol a little bit, just a little bit. It wasn't an addiction. It did not turn into any addiction or anything that started to disrupt my life. But I noticed that there was a period of time where I started to drink. I really started to drink, because I never did like to drink. When I first was turned legal enough to drink, which is 18 here in Toronto, I didn't really like it. I didn't like the way it made my body feel. I didn't like the way that it made me feel afterwards. I didn't like the fact that I couldn't be in control of my body, or, my equilibrium. I just started to feel dizzy. I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that I couldn't be in control of my body. I didn't like that. But anyway, years went on, and then I just, for some reason, I started to really like how it made me feel. As I got more depressed, and I started to get older, and I started to experience different things, and I just started to drink a little bit more. And that was those were the times where I was a lot more, I guess I was just going through that really rough healing process. This was even after I went to therapy for sexual abuse. After I went to sexual abuse, therapy for sexual abuse, I was still dealing with those issues. I was still dealing with I was dealing with that festering wound that I was trying to heal. It was raw. I was still dealing with that raw wound. So I mean, just everything on top of each other. It was not just about sexual abuse. It was feelings of this and feelings of that, and not feeling useful, and dealing with stressful circumstances. And I would definitely drink. I would have some drinks, and sometimes it was good, and other times when I was alone, it did not help. Sometimes it made it worse. In fact, most of the time it made it worse. I just felt more emotional and more angry and more sad, more upset. I felt more sorry for myself. Okay? And, I just, over time, not very, very long, really and truly not very long at all. I don't really know the time frame. Some things I cannot recall, but over time I just realized, okay, this is not really working. I'm starting to feel, I feel sick after I drink. I don't like the way it makes my body feel the next day. um it just, the issues are there, full throttle, just as strong as ever, possibly stronger than it was before. And I just learned that this stuff doesn't work. I mean, this alcohol stuff doesn't work because my issues are still there. My feelings of crappiness are still there. And this alcohol cannot take it away. It cannot take it away. So I just learned that. But I was doing it because I was dealing with a difficult situation, difficult emotions. I was in that really difficult period of recovery with myself. And just didn't work. Didn't work. So anyway, why is it so damaging to indulge in alcohol? And this is pertaining to the physical body, okay? Well, first of all, alcohol is considered a poison to the body. It is considered a poison to the body. And if it's considered to be a poison to the body in dangerous amounts, it's going to kill brain cells, and it's going to cause liver damage over time. It weakens the immune system. It causes, you could even get alcohol poisoning. You can get alcohol poisoning because there are people who have drunk too much, and they ended up dying because there was just too much in their blood, and their body became overwhelmed and out of whack, and it just went kaput, right? So alcohol, physically, we know this is like a poison to the body, so it's going to affect your body negatively. That's just how it's going to go. Now, this is another point that I want to make, that when you are in a state of inebriation, okay, when you are in a state of inebriation, when you are drunk or you are even tipsy, okay, but whatever, the point is you're under the influence of alcohol. Your mind is altered. Your mind is altered. Okay, so it's not functioning the same as it would if you were sober. It changes the functioning and the operation of your mind. It changes your rational mind. Okay, you see things differently. You interpret things differently. Okay, your brain is not as effective and as fast, and it just operates differently. So you don't have much control, or you're not in a good place to make choices and decisions. You don't really know. And also you don't have control over your choices and decisions. Because I'm pretty sure if you've drunk alcohol, you did not even realize you were doing what you're doing until later. And you're like, wow, I did not know I did that. Because you don't have much control over your choices or decisions. You don't. You don't have much control over your behaviors. You don't know you're doing something, you don't know why you're doing it, but you're doing it because you're under the influence. It alters your mind. Remember, it alters your mind. And like they said, it's a poison. So if you're putting poison into your brain, don't you think it's going to poison the way that you behave and you act and you think and the way that it operates? It's a poison. Poisons are going to make things dysfunctional. Okay? So just know that if you are drinking alcohol, you're not going to have much control or you're not going to really know the reasons behind your choices and decisions and behaviors. Your life cannot be conducted from a clear, concise perspective. Because it's like, the way that I would see alcohol, it's like, I don't know how I would describe it, but it's just, I mean, I don't know if you've seen those alcohol commercials where, I think this was like a while back, this was like probably 10 years, 15 years back, where there was an alcohol commercial, something about MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and you would see, like, it would show like a picture or like a perspective of someone looking through the driver's windshield, right? And then it would put this glass in front of that, that windshield, or before the windshield, right in front of the person's face. That's the perspective they're giving you. They're putting a glass right in front, and that's to signify that you would have a drink, right? So you're looking through that glass, and it's blurry, and it's not quite clear and concise, your perspective through your eyes, coming through the glass, which represents how much alcohol you drank, and through the windows. And then what they did was put another glass in front of that glass. So you're looking through two glasses. So you can imagine how distorted and how blurry and weird it's going to look if you're going to have two glasses. And then they put another 3 glasses. Okay? And you're looking through all of these 3 glasses and trying to drive. Okay? That's really what the scene is, the set is. You're driving, but you have all these glasses in front of your eyes, in front of your perception, so you cannot clearly see what you're doing. You can't clearly see. Your vision is foggy. Just your ability to see clearly and to interpret clearly is lowered significantly. So that's the way that I would, that's the way that I would express how alcohol would, do what it would do to your perception. It's gonna make it foggy. It's gonna make it unclear. It's gonna make it. You're not seeing in the natural way that you would be seeing. You're just seeing things in a weird fog or through a weird glass. That's what you're seeing it through. But anyway, I tried with that. But anyway, so if you are always under the influence of alcohol, let's just say that you are in a habit. You're in a habit of doing this, or you have a full-blown addiction. How many good, wise, and decisions do you think you're making if you're always under the influence of alcohol? Not very many. Not very many. That's why it's something you need to be careful of, right? And like I said briefly, it's damaging to your healing journey, recovery process, becoming yourself, empowering yourself, self-love, self-awareness, your healthy emotional and mental states. It is, it's damaging to those things. You cannot be at your best when you are inebriated for a long time, for most of the time. You can't. You cannot be. It's a spirit, pardon the pun, but it's a spirit, right? Alcohol, sometimes they call alcohol spirits, right? It's a spirit that you are taking on when you are drunk. Because have you noticed that some people, maybe in your family, or maybe somebody told you this about yourself when you were drinking, that some people become completely different when they drink. They become extremely angry, or they become very unlike who they usually are. Like, they become a different person. Usually, if they're very, let's say, calm and relaxed and chilled out and very respectful and calm, if they drink, they could turn out to be very obnoxious, very rude, very mean, very condescending, or, they could just become dangerous and violent, or whatever. They have a totally different personality change, if you've noticed that. Alcohol can do some strange things to people. Strange things. So that's why I would say that. It can give you a different spirit. Anyway, So I can tell, if you want to know some ways that I can tell you to help to reverse this pattern, then I can give you a few points, okay? Now, first of all, if your pattern of alcohol consumption has taken over your life, it's interfering with your relationships, with your job, with your opportunities, with your health, other aspects of your life, it doesn't matter, okay? Um, and it's something you can't control. If it's something you cannot control, then I would say it's time to see a professional. Absolutely. Time to see a professional because you can really be dealing with alcoholism. Okay, having a serious problem with that. Now, there are other cases where, yes, you can be a functional alcoholic, but that still requires your attention and possibly professional help. If some aspect of your life is suffering, or your health is suffering, or your finances are suffering because you're just drinking or you're buying drinks so often that, it's affecting you financially. Sometimes, it takes a good look at yourself to see if you really do have a problem. And also listen to what other people say too. Not to say that everything needs to derive from what other people say, but listen to the comments other people make about you or say about you, or what they're concerned about in terms of your drinking habits. Maybe there's something you need to pay attention to right there, right? But anyway, so for those people who find it a habit to drink, okay? So that means that it doesn't necessarily interfere with their everyday life, but however, it becomes more frequent and excessive in times of stress and change. Possibly they get triggered by events or circumstances that's triggering a wound or trauma or pain. Okay, so I'm mainly speaking to people who are in that category, who just, they have a habit. It's not a full-blown addiction, but they have a habit and it's being triggered. You're being triggered by stress and change and issues, wounds in your trauma. So if that's the case for you, you got to know exactly what your triggers are. And of course, I mean, just like I'm saying, I always, I'm always speaking to people. I'm speaking to you who has possibly gone through sexual abuse. I don't know, maybe you haven't. Maybe you just like to listen to this podcast to get some more information about something, or someone you know who has gone through it. I don't know. But anyway, you gotta know exactly what your triggers are. It does not have to be exactly pertaining to sexual abuse. It can be any kind of thing, any kind of problem, trauma, anything that you've dealt with. So you gotta know exactly what is triggering you to want to drink. What are the circumstances surrounding your trigger that makes you want to drink? What exactly are you feeling? What experience are you feeling? What are you feeling exactly? What is your experience what is your current circumstance that's making you feel like, okay, I need to drink, or I need to rid myself of this feeling? Okay? What is that emotion, or what is that thing that I'm so scared of to handle, that's causing me to say, okay, I need to drink, or the only way I can deal with this is to drink? It could be pertaining to sexual abuse. It could be pertaining to something emotional. It can be pertaining to some physical thing, or something that someone said even. It could be pertaining to feelings of unworthiness, of guilt, of shame, pertaining to anything else that can cause shame or can induce shame. Are you going through a certain transition, and does that transition relate to some previous experience of some other time that you felt the same way in this transition? Are you going through a difficult Are you going through a difficult circumstance, or did you lose your job? And why? What is it about losing the job that scares you so much to make you want to drink? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the trigger can literally be anything, and it's deep. It's a deep thing. So you got to identify exactly what is causing you to want to pick up that glass. Okay, and of course, like, there's too many scenarios, there's too many different things, there's too many possibilities that I can't sit here and try to mention all of them to you about it, you know, because it's not just about one thing. Some things are just connected, they're all interconnected, they're all interwoven. There's one thing and another thing and another thing. With me, when I was drinking, I was dealing, it was everything compounded onto one thing. It was compounded with a million things, sorry. Okay, because I was, at that time, I was still dealing with the initial recovery of uh, the abuse that I suffered when I was younger. But it was also dealing with a weird transition where it was like a family difficulty that I was experiencing based off of the trauma. And then it was also because I was unemployed at that time. And then I was also dealing with some kind of, disappointment in love that I was dealing with at that point. I was also dealing with feelings of unworthiness, not knowing where I fit in the world, not knowing who I was, feeling uprooted because recently I moved in with one of my parents, and it was a lot. I was going through a lot. So it's just about knowing exactly what's happening. You need to be aware and understanding and acknowledging of what's happening and what's causing you to want to drink like that. Okay, so you work on your triggers, you work on figuring out what your triggers are, and then you can work on replacing the habit. You can work on replacing the habit. Okay, because there are healthy and productive ways of dealing with difficulties and stress and trauma and wounds and transition, and there's just so much to it. There's definitely healthy, productive ways of dealing with those difficult emotions and feelings. Okay, so what you can do is you can write a journal, write in a journal, write your thoughts down, write the things that's going on in your life, write things down. That stuff works for me. It may not work for you. You might even want to record yourself and listen to yourself speak about something. You might even gain insight with that. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but you can actually gain insight in that. Recording an audio of yourself, like an audio diary, yeah, that stuff is pretty powerful too. I've done a lot of these different type of things, but journal, for me specifically, if you're a person that likes to write things down, I find that writing is so powerful because there are things that come out of my mind, or there are things that are within myself, things that I already know, but I just have to write it down instead of going through my mind and worrying in my mind and turning things over in my mind, turning stones over in my mind mentally, just sitting there trying to figure out what's the issue. Sometimes what I do is just write it down, write down things, just write things down, and you'll be surprised at the things that you read and you realize about yourself, or the things that is bothering you. And some things can click, some things can really click for you out of writing. You get wisdom that comes through when you write sometimes. That's with me though, may not be with you, but that's where I get a lot of wisdom, is when I write things down. Okay, of course I'm going to say meditation. I mean, meditation is something I say, that's just like a common thread through everything, meditation. But communion with loved ones, that's another thing too. Communion or communication with loved ones, because yes, I talk about all these self things and things that you can do with yourself, self, do for yourself, self. I get that, but I'm also on the other side too of interacting with other people and having communication with other people, because I'm telling you, especially if you're going through a difficult time, a difficult season, and things are weird, and you're confused, and you're upset, and you're anxious, and you're depressed. Sometimes talking to a loved one is very, very helpful, because it just allows you to get things out to someone else, to someone who sympathizes or empathizes with you, someone who could also be going through somewhat of the same thing you're going through, and it can cause you to realize, okay, well, we have some things in common, and maybe it's not so bad, or I don't know, anything. Just talking and communicating with people that you trust and love, people that care, okay? People that who care. That can help a ton. That can help a ton. It can help a lot. Just talking with other people, communication with other people, and coming together in a loving, trusting manner, and having a safe place to speak and to share your thoughts and share your vulnerabilities and share the things that you're going through in your life. It's a very powerful thing too. Okay? So anyway, the next thing is, before you decide to take a drink, ask yourself the important questions. You must ask yourself questions all the time about what you're doing. Figure out what the reason is behind you taking a drink. Am I doing it because I'm upset? Am I doing it because I feel scared? Am I doing it because I'm being socially pressured? Am I doing it because I want to fit in? Am I doing it because it's a social interaction? Am I doing it because I feel like this is the only way that I can deal with or not deal with my issues or my emotions? You got to ask yourself, what is the reason for this consumption of alcohol? And then you got to know that this is one thing. You got to know that alcohol never solves your problems. It does not. It does not solve your problems. It gives you a temporary illusion of wellness. It gives you a temporary illusion of wellness. Like when you're drinking, it's like it creates this fog. Like you're in the same space, but you're in a fog. Because you're foggy, you cannot see all the imperfections and all the things that you don't want and the things you don't like. Let's say if you're in a dirty room, and it just creates this fog, so you can't see all those imperfections. You can't see all the things that are out of place. You cannot see what's going on in that circumstance because it creates a fog. You're still there though, and the problem is still there, but because you're inebriated and you're altered, you can't see. You can't really see. You can't interpret. You can't figure out what's going on. Okay, so it provides a temporary illusion of wellness. And of course it just creates them. It just creates problems. It creates problems. It creates them because if it becomes a habit or it becomes a full-blown addiction, well, you're first of all damaging your health. And then on top of that, you're damaging all these other opportunities and things that you could be doing if you're not inebriated. Or you're damaging all these opportunities and all the things that you can do because you are inebriated, because you are altered, in an altered state, because possibly you become a totally different person, or you have a different personality when you drink, and that can turn people off. And then you can also destroy your relationships with your spouse or your family or whoever, your friends. Financially, yeah, like I said, financially could put you in a really not so good place because you're spending so much on alcohol. It just creates more problems. Emotionally, you don't deal with what it is you need to deal with. So it just creates more problems. It creates more problems. But anyway, that's about it for that, just for some of those points. And I just also wanted to say that, I want to get a little bit more. I want to talk a little bit more about this. Like I said a few other episodes ago, or it's probably been a couple episodes by now, that I want to talk more about these different things that we do when we're depressed. And I definitely know alcoholism, or just drinking alcohol while we're depressed, is something I want to speak more about. So this is just basically just brief. It's a brief, I would say just brief. It's just a brief introduction to it. I wouldn't say introduction. It's just a brief overview of alcohol and the effects of it and why we do it. So I'll talk a little bit more about that with depression and drinking alcohol. Okay? So anyways, I would just advise any of you who are dependent on this stuff just to get some help or some assistance for that, because that's something that can absolutely ruin your life. And like I said, it doesn't help anything. Your problems are waiting for you. They're waiting for you to be dealt with, okay? As you sober up, they're waiting for you. So I would say it's a good idea to just deal with your problems, deal with your issues and pain at the root. Deal with them at the root so that you can heal and you can become who you want to become, and you'll be a lot better off. You'll be a lot better off if you just deal with your emotions. And then you would have no need for it. You won't really have any need. I mean, you can drink when you want to, but you won't have a dependency, or you won't have a habit or this urge or impulse to want to do it. But anyway, like I said, I will talk more about this in another video or another audio, okay? So that's it for today, guys, and this is a short one. I know, short one. I like to do some things that are short and sweet. So thank you for listening to A Woman's Guide to Reclaiming Wholeness After Sexual Abuse. Now, like I said, if I told you about my website, so if you would like to check out my show notes, or show notes / blog for this episode, then head over to my website, www.crossroadswithyourconfidant.com. That's where you can access them, or you can contact me. So next week, we will explore Overindulgence, Part 3. And with that, I'm going to be speaking about body modification. So be sure to tune in. And until next time, take care.